Guys, he's back. It's Tony G. Tony G is back playing poker. He's finally done with his whatever BS he had to do some politics stuff in Lithuania is like legislating. That doesn't sound that fun compared to watching Tony G berate Phil Hellmuth. I mean,
I would like to submit that Tony G berating any kind of Lithuanian politician would be in the top 10, watch later YouTube list for me.
Yeah, that's true.
Get on your bicycle and get out of this parliament.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any YouTube stuff of that, I don't really want to take the time to look it up, but if you guys know of any Lithuanian parliament stuff with Tony G yelling at people, please send it on over. We're very interested. Anyway, Tony G is back playing poker, like I said, and he's playing super high stakes. It's a 2,000, 4,000 euro game in Montenegro with a 4,000 euro ante. He's playing, of course, with a bunch of elite players and billionaires who are the only guys who play this game, obviously. And it's Tony G. He's going to make some weird decisions.
Absolutely. In this hand, he's going to be up against billionaire Paul Phua. Paul Phua is going to open the button. Tony G is going to be in the small blind. They both start with about €500,000 in front of them. Oh man, buckle up. This one's a little whack.
It is definitely weird, and that's probably why it was suggested by Mark Testert and Ryan Saunders. If you have a suggestion for the breakdown, please tweet at us and include a YouTube link.
That is correct. Now, before we get to the hand, we just got to mention our sponsor, Nitrogen Sports Poker, where at the end of every month we have our special Poker Guys only tournament. That's not just us. It's you could be involved in that too.
It's not just heads up, no.
Right. It's Poker Guys people.
Yeah.
Only. You're part of the Poker Guys universe. Just got to use the link that we tweet out once in a while whenever we tweet out the links to these videos, and you can get in. There's 1,000 buy-ins guaranteed. We usually get like 100, 120 players, meaning there's a massive overlay. Sounds crazy not to play it. In fact, it is crazy not to play it.
Actually, it's basically like being Tony G and making the types of decisions that Tony G makes at the poker table if you don't play it. You don't want to do that. That's minus EV. So get in there, get on Nitrogen, and get you some poker.
There's too many. You're too good. You're too good to play.
Yeah, let's just draw out one of us.
No, it's okay. We would play long just for a while. I give.
I call.
He has never played long there.
I gamble.
He played before.
Long time
Must have
ago.
all the chaos.
$20.
这个是大忙小忙的是吧？这都
Maybe do 7.
有2、3、4、5的了。
我觉得在等牌咯，等谁有牌。
Whatever happened in just a 7 bounty?
Tony G leading out into Paul Phua.
Tom went to sleep. That's what happened to this bounty.
7.
Tony G hitting us like a tornado.
BPIP. We'll add Tom. The old Tom. Good for the game.
Wow. Tony got serious real quick there. Paul Phua getting 70,000.
I need to
Pretty
catch up.
much into this
Is it strong?
lead a bet here from Tony.
What do you mean you need to catch up?
With my hand.
No draw. How is it no draw? How to catch up?
There's no draw, but I still can catch up.
Oh, 2 cards.
I need 2 cards. I'm that far behind. I need to hit twice.
Yes, no draw. Back door.
Yeah, but if you have 8-6 of spades, it can still come good. All right.
Yes, Tony G is back, like we said in the opening. And he's still Tony G, I guess. I mean, all right, let's talk about preflop for a second, because I think we have to. I'm sorry, Tony. We love you, Tony.
We do.
I mean, come on, man.
What the hell, bro?
What are you doing? So king 9 off in the small blind. There's a lot of money in the pot. It's 2-4-4, meaning there's a lot of extra money in there if you 3-bet. Paul Phua does not have to have anything. As we see, he has queen 8 suited on the button, which is a relatively normal hand to open on the button, but of course a hand that might consider folding if Tony raises. I don't know if Phua would. I mean, he's a billionaire, but maybe he would. I don't see why we're not either folding or raising preflop as Tony.
I mean, that seems really clear, right? It's got to be one of those two options. This is almost certainly the worst possible option in this cash game, with this granted saying an ante that is so big it's as big as the blind, and it's not even a tournament. This is crazy. I really, this just seems like categorically bad.
Right, and that's not
Tony
to say
G.
that he has to 3-bet everything out of the small blind.
Of course
like
not.
if he had Jack 10 suited, he could call out of the small blind.
Right.
Hands like that, pocket pairs sometimes, you don't have to capture that fold equity preflop. But with a hand like king 9 off that doesn't play well post flop, especially out of position, it feels like a pretty clear 3-bet if we're going to enter the pot.
Sometimes people will play wider ranges as they get later and later into a session. They're like, oh, I'm not getting any hands. We don't think that's a good reason ever to do that.
No.
But even if that was the case, this is the second hand of the session, Tony.
Yep.
This is number 2. So what the hell, bro?
It's
There's
possible.
No
It's
excuses.
possible that Tony's trying to establish a Tony-esque image. He already bluffed and showed it with Jack 7 on the first hand. So
Why did
now
it-
he's just gonna play every hand. I don't know what the. Okay,
This is
whatever.
just bad.
It's
Move
bad.
on.
It's
Move
bad. It's
on.
bad. All right, let's get to the flop, which is the driest flop in the history of poker. It's among like the 3 or 4 possible driest flops with the King 7 deuce rainbow. Tony, of course, likes it with top pair. Should he bet it though?
I don't think so. I don't know why he would. The only possible reason to is maybe to get this exact result that he gets, which is to induce a raise. But as you like to say, it's a pretty high variance play, bro.
It is a high variance play, but it's possible that the Tony and Phua, like Tony has a big history of playing with a lot of whales, right? He seeks out those whale games. So maybe him and Phua have a lot of history here, and Tony knows something about Phua, or Phua goes after Tony. If that's the case, it's not a terrible plan. I know Tony is playing a high variance game here by doing this, but of course when he leads he can't fold, which I'm glad he doesn't fold. But of course with King 9 on the super dry board, in a traditional sense, you're usually putting yourself in a bad spot. But Tony might be what Jonathan has said before, trying to exhibit get a click whir response out of Paul Phua, which means he just sees the bet and he's like, you can't dunk into me on this dry board. Screw you, I raise, you know?
Yeah, like it's automatic.
And
almost.
as we see, that is what happened. So maybe there is some history and Tony does have a plan that makes sense here.
I mean, that is possible. And if that's the case, good on you, Tony, I suppose, although it's a high variance route either way, even if it is the case. But man, I got to say, calling King 9 off out of the small blind pre-flop makes me less certain that this is some brilliant move by Tony and just I have top pair, I'm donking play, and then that doesn't feel as good.
Well, I want to give him credit because I like him.
Follows through. So this pot is 172,000 euros going to the turn. Paul Phua is actually the one that needs some backdoor cards. That's one of them. Spikes a pair. Exactly. Not wrong. Question is, does he
A
feel
date
like
with a knife.
this might be good
100.
enough? Knuckles, there it is. Wow, 2 backdoor cards indeed.
Raise. No check raise.
Paul Phua gets there big time. No flush on the board, no straight on the board.
Yeah.
Checking the turn back.
Turn check.
Made him look real weak.
Raise one top.
Can't believe the stakes we're playing. Already 272,000 in the middle.
200.
I wish I checked it.
Raised to 200,000. Tony G cannot be happy about this, and he's not. That's rough.
Okay, I call.
Problem with getting min raised
Call?
is that
Call,
your
call.
opponent
Two pair.
is not afraid of you calling.
That's sick. That's very sick.
So this actually has become kind of a weird spot for Tony, and a big part of that is the check on the turn, right? Because Paul Phua picked up a queen, and it makes sense to check that hand, but mostly if Paul Phua was bluffing on the flop, he's going to bet the turn, and if Paul Phua had what he's repping on the flop, he's going to bet the turn as well, because he's got a really big hand. Now maybe he raised something like ace, king, or aces on the flop, and he's afraid of king, queen, and then maybe he'll check the turn with a hand like that, maybe. But usually you expect Phua to continue on the turn, right?
Yes, with all the strong hands and almost all the weak hands, unless he's completely giving up anyway. Right. Now, so once Phua checks and we're in this situation, I don't hate Tony G. I was going to call him Tony B. That's like a cool name, by the way, Tony B.
Tony G's better.
Tony B's like a cool singer, though. Tony G is like a.
You talking about
clown.
Tony Bennett? You're just thinking about Tony Bennett?
Maybe I am. Do we know any Tony Bennett songs? Anyone?
I mean, I'm sure you do. He's like the same age as you, right?
So it's close. Anywho, so I don't completely hate this bet because if for Tony G, and we think about it, probably almost all, if not all better hands, if we check, are going to bet anyway for value. Like I think King Jack is betting for value if we check. I don't know that it would have gotten here this way, but if it does, King 10 probably betting for value too. Probably, and those are the only ones we could even throw out. Ace King certainly would be betting for value. I gotta believe if we check the river to Phua. So I think I like this bet because we're gonna try and squeeze some marginal value out of the only hands that we can come up with that might make some sense, which is a queen that Phua can have, which it turns out he does have. It gets worse than that, but where Phua turned a queen, and so now is like in showdown mode, and we can try and extract a little value from that. It's really close. I certainly don't love it, but I get it, and I don't hate this bet. It might even be optimal.
I don't hate it, but I don't know if it's optimal. I'm a little bit less on board with the bet because I think it's a bit ambitious to think, okay, Phua turned a queen and he's going to call with a queen. That's a parlay that's not that easy to get to happen here as
Agreed.
Tony, especially when Phua raised the flop and Tony decides to bet the river anyway. Obviously, Tony is over-repped when he bets this on the river, right?
Yes.
So that makes it a little bit ambitious. I think maybe checking and hoping that Phua bluffs is a slightly better plan, but I could see either way being an okay plan. The real question is, what should he do once Phua raises? But first, should Phua raise? I know he made 2 pair, but it's not a good 2 pair. I don't know if he should raise here.
I don't think he should raise. Tony's got all the super strong hands. Not all of them, sorry. Almost all the super strong hands. He's got sets of 7s.
Yes.
Right? He has sets of deuces.
Yep.
He has king, queen.
Yep.
He doesn't have kings usually. He doesn't have queens usually. Not that we'd expect.
He probably has
queens
king 8
anyway.
and king 7 knowing that it's Tony, and
I
he
mean,
called with king 9 off pre-flop.
Yeah, probably has king 8 suited and king 7 suited at least, right? If
Yeah.
he's got king 9 off. I don't know what value we're hoping to get. We need Tony to have a hand almost exactly like he has and to call with it, both of which are questionable spots. Like, I don't know if either one of those things is going to come in that often, let alone both, even though they did here. I think this is probably a losing money raise over time for Phua against Tony Giggles.
Tony Giggles, I was going to use that one. You stole it from me.
I stole it.
Oh, man, you said you didn't even like it. He lied to me.
I don't like it.
Oh, you love it. All right, anyway, so Paul Phua does raise Tony Giggles, and now Tony has a decision. The thing that's really weird about this raise is that it's a min raise, and I don't think we should go into too much depth here, but I think Phua should probably either be basically shoving or raising bigger if he's going to raise here. Like, is he ever min raising as a bluff? Why would you really be min raising in this spot anyway? It feels like with stack to pot ratio, you might as well just shove with your bluffs and your value. I don't understand.
I agree. It seems incredibly unlikely based on the line that this hand is taken that a min raise would be a bluff here.
Right.
So you might as well shove and hope to get called or raise more if you're going to raise it all, which we don't like raising anyway. I feel like Phua is actually doing something further than that, though. He's trying to raise fold, I think.
I think he probably will raise fold if Tony moves in.
Because Tony doesn't have almost any bluffs as a 3-bet on the river.
Of course, Tony doesn't have that option really with king 9. I mean, I guess he does, but it would be kind of weird.
Bizarre.
It would be very bizarre. So Tony calls, and I think that's a pretty clear mistake, honestly. Like, especially because of what we just said. When Phua min raises, it looks not like a bluff at all, right? And Tony clearly can only beat a bluff. It's not like Phua has ace queen, and he's like, you know what? Tony's got queen jack here, and I'm going to get a little extra value. It is not happening that way. So I think Tony's just feeling a little bit committed to the pot because, you know, he likes to be committed to things, as he used to say on the big game.
Yeah.
I don't really understand why you would call. I mean, I guess because Phua checked back the turn, that confused Tony and made him think, okay, what is Fua's value? Wouldn't he keep betting a set of deuces? Wouldn't he keep betting a set of 7s? That's a fair thought. Maybe Phua wouldn't keep betting a set of kings, or if he turned a set of queens, maybe he was the type of guy who would check back because he's afraid of losing his action. That's something to worry about.
Yeah, maybe king queen once in a while like that too, but mostly once Tony calls a raise on the flop, you'd expect him to not, you wouldn't lose him necessarily on a lot of turn bets, right?
Right, so queen 8, queen queen, and 8-8 are the only hands that really make the most sense once we get here to the river, although not all of those make sense as raises on the flop, but as we see, Phua raised queen out on the flop, so a lot of things could be happening here. So in Tony's defense, it's hard to think of value that makes sense. Queen 8 does make sense, but you know that's rare and weird. It's also hard to think of bluffs, though. It's hard to think that he's bluffing for a min raise, and I think when you can't really think of a way that the guy is bluffing, you should fold anyway.
I think so. Look, Tony G is one of those things, much like Joaquin Phoenix and Joker, sort of an evil clown thing going on.
Yes.
He really could become sort of the Joker, by the way, and Tony Giggles is an amazing name for a killer clown.
And you like the name even more now, so
just putting it out there, maybe consider it Tony. Okay, so there were lots of things here that we thought were questionable at best.
Yeah.
Maybe worse than that, Tony G pre-flop.
I mean pre-flop. Pre-flop.
Pre-flop.
Yeah.
Tony G on the flop, Paul Phua on the flop, and then certainly the river played by Tony actually and Paul Phua.
Yeah.
What do you think about all the decisions? Almost every decision, anytime someone put chips in, is at least something to wonder about, except maybe Paul Phua raising pre.
That seems
on
fine.
The button,
That seems
unopened,
totally fine and
Queen
good.
8 suited. We're fine with
Well
that.
done, Paul Phua.
So we didn't like a lot of those decisions, although some of them we thought were defensible and maybe even good. Let us know what you thought of the decisions in the comments. We always like to see what you have to say.
And hey, guess what? We wrote a book.
Yes, we did.
It's called How Can He Fold? Incredible Poker Hands Broken Down Decision by Decision. There is a link in the description of this video where you get access to the book from different sources. There's Amazon if you want the paperback, or you can go to our website there. That's what the link is for. It also brings you to Amazon where you can get the e-files. It's a really fun book. It's a book we spent about a year writing. It's hands that we discuss back and forth analytically, starting with the least complex hands, going to the most complex hands. It's also a lot of fun. We think it's a great read. We think it's a great gift.
Absolutely. It is quite the gift. If you want a little taste of it, you can start checking out articles in Card Player magazine where small excerpts from the book will start appearing relatively soon as well.
Right. And if you like this video, make sure you subscribe and give us a like.